Hello folks, Arcadia here, hope you guys are doing great. In today's video I will be discussing Final Fantasy, but this time I will be sharing my thoughts on what I want to see in the next numbered Final Fantasy title. For the past year or so we have been spoiled with not just one, but two mainline Final Fantasy titles almost back to back, which is something that we don't often get to experience. However, I do feel like we've had enough time to digest both Final Fantasy XVI and Rebirth, and I thought it might be fun to look ahead and share my thoughts on what I would like to see next from Final Fantasy. But before I continue further, I do want to preface that this is just my opinions and thoughts on what I would like to see, but please feel free to share your thoughts on Final Fantasy and what you would like to see next in the comment section. I'm really curious to see what you guys want to see next from Final Fantasy. But with that out of the way, let us start from a gameplay perspective, and one of the things that I would like to see is some form of a iteration of the ATB combat system. Something similar to what they've done with Final Fantasy VII Remake series, where they combine action-based gameplay with elements from the ATB system. It doesn't necessarily need to be exactly the same, but some form of an evolution that will add a new depth to the combat system. Now, I don't think we will see turn-based combat return anytime soon, which is sad because I wouldn't mind seeing an iteration of that either. However, with the remake series, I do think they have found a good balance of having an action-based gameplay while retaining the essence of the old ATB system. For the past couple of years we have seen Square experiment with different gameplay systems, but I honestly feel like it might be better to just focus on one core concept of gameplay and sort of build upon it, and I do think they should use Rebirth and what they've done with the remake series as a blueprint in terms of gameplay and build off of that. With the remake series they have managed to modernize the classic Final Fantasy experience that we know and love, and it is so far my favorite in the modern era of Final Fantasy. Another thing that I also would like to see is the return of the job system. It doesn't necessarily have to be like a traditional job system, although I wouldn't mind that if I'm being honest, but some form of a role system where you can spec your characters into certain roles or jobs. There have been many Final Fantasy games with interesting takes on the role system, whether it is your traditional job system or other frameworks like the Materia system or the Sphere Grid. I believe Final Fantasy XIII was the last numbered Final Fantasy game where you could assign characters to certain roles, although that system was very linear in terms of progression. But yeah, having a job system where you can spec your characters is something that I would like to see. I love RPGs where you can create unique character builds and it adds a lot of replayability. Games like Final Fantasy XII Zodiac Age comes to mind, and even spin-off titles like Tactics and Stranger of Paradise are examples of Final Fantasy games that I've returned to because of their take on the job system. The Final Fantasy franchise has so many iconic jobs, and I would definitely love to see some form of a role or a job system where you can progress your characters. Speaking of character progression, having playable party members is also another thing that I would like to see. Now, some of you might see this as an obvious thing to have, however that has not been the case with Final Fantasy XVI or during the release of Final Fantasy XV, so that is why I'm bringing this point up. One of the biggest appeals when it comes to RPGs is the fact that you can recruit new characters to your party and of course play them. I don't know what Square has been thinking lately, but hopefully we'll get a more traditional party system in the next mainline Final Fantasy. And the last thing that I want to mention in this video is that I would like to see a story containing multiple endings, depending on the actions that you have taken in the game. The Final Fantasy series are for the most part known for having fixed endings, although there have been some Final Fantasy games that have dabbled into alternate endings, and I thought it would be interesting to have 2 to maybe 3 different endings depending on what you've done in the game. It could be through dialogue choices or perhaps through side quests. I don't mind if it's just simple endings that have a minor impact on the outcome, although it would be really cool to have endings that would drastically change the conclusion of a story. Having more than one ending adds even more replayability from a story/narrative standpoint, and it gives the player even more possibilities to impact the story through their actions. JRPGs like Chrono Trigger and Shin Megami Tensei comes to mind whenever I think of JRPGs with multiple endings, and I thought it would be interesting to see a Final Fantasy game doing something similar to that. And there we go, these are some of the things that I would like to see in the next numbered Final Fantasy title. Again, the next mainline Final Fantasy is probably quite far off, but I thought it might be fun to look ahead and share my thoughts on what I would like to see next from Final Fantasy. Now, I don't expect Square to do all of the things that I've mentioned, which is completely fine. What I like about the Final Fantasy franchise is that each title has its own identity, and regardless of what they do, I will still be excited to see what they have to offer. Let me know what you guys want to see next from Final Fantasy in the comments. Thank you for watching this video, and consider subscribing if you're interested in gaming / JRPG related stuff. Take care, and I'll hopefully see you guys next time.